Hi, in this LITERO cultural commentary, we'll see how the theme of the story of your life, by Ted Chiang, is relevant to the current language and culture of the society. As an introduction, I will read you the part of the story that I think define the most how the story is relevant to the current language and culture. The excerpt I will read you is the part of the story where Louise explained to Gary how the heptapods use syntax in their signs to express themselves. The military had set up a trailer containing our offices at the Looking Glasses site. I saw Gary walking toward the trailer and ran to catch up with him. It's a semasiographic writing system, I said when I reached him. Excuse me, said Gary. Here, let me show you. I directed Gary into my office. Once we were inside, I went to the chalkboard and drew a circle with a diagonal line bisecting it. What does this mean? Not allowed? Right. Next, I printed the words not allowed on the chalkboard. And so does this, but only one is a representation of speech. Gary nodded. Okay. Linguists describe writing like this. I indicated the printed words as glottal because it represents speech. Every human writing language is in this category. However, this symbol, I indicated the circle and diagonal line, is semasiographic writing because it conveys meaning without reference to speech. There's no correspondence between its components and any particular sounds. And you think all of heptapod's writing is like this? From what I've seen so far, yes. It's not picture writing, it's far more complex. It has its own system of rules for constructing sentence, like a visual syntax that's unrelated to the syntax for their spoken language. A visual syntax. Can you show me an example? Coming right up. I sat down at my desk and using the computer pulled up a frame from the recording of yesterday's conversation with Raspberry. I turned the monitor so we could see it. In their spoken language, a noun has case marker indicating whether it's a subject or object. In the written language, however, a noun is identified as subject or object based on the orientation of its logogram, relative to that of the verb. Here, take a look. I pointed at one of the figures. For instance, when heptapod is integrated with hears, this way, with these strokes parallel, it means that the heptapod is doing the hearing. It showed him a different one. When they're combined this way, with the strokes perpendicular, it means that the heptapod is being heard. This morphology applies to several verbs. In this expert, we understand that the heptapods are not only throwing up signs in the air, they are using a spoken language and a written language that allows them to communicate. It shows us that even if they have a different way to communicate, they still use a language just like ours, which has syntax, noun, verb, and sentences. This part also shows us that just like us, the heptapods are communicating with a purpose. They can hear and they know when they're being heard. Also, the heptapods have a spoken language and a written language, just like we see in the current language the society have. Those two types of language allows them to have more than one way to communicate between each others. With all those similarities, we can conclude that the heptapods, all the language, really developed. that we could really compare to the current language present in society. Having that language that allows them to communicate and interact between each others lead to the fact that they have a certain culture, which implies some norms and some rules. Things that they can do as a community and things that they can't do. Just like we see in our current culture. They're perfectly aware of their actions, and they're using their language, both written and spoken, to define themselves as a community. Just the simple fact that they're interacting with Louis without being savaged and panicked shows that they know how to communicate it. Their culture probably showed them how to be respectful and how to act around people. I hope that my literal cultural commentary proved you that the story of your life is relevant to the current language and culture of our society. Thanks for listening.